and Joe know all there is to know, from masterpieces to deep fried tacos. And if the movie sucks, you might hear them say, there's no telling where the guys will take you. Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, cause we already warned you. Better watch out, it's gonna ruin the plot. Real spoilers. Real spoilers. Real spoilers.
Broadcasting from the lush but not lavish studios located in the basement of the O'Keefe Institute for Advanced Film Snarkitude, this is Real Spoilers, episode 676. It's a light week for movies because they delayed Morbius.
They have one movie coming out
Might be
this
for
week.
the best.
Maybe.
And
Was that supposed to be now?
Yeah, it was supposed to be. They delayed it so they could put Spider-Man in.
Who's that?
yeah, who is that? Well, let's
Hey.
let's go around the virtual table, both real and virtual, and everyone can introduce themselves.
This is Dan.
This is Blake.
This is Joe.
This is Kevin.
And this is Tom. That's right. We're getting the band back together for our special deep fried taco episode. Yeah. So it's been a while since we've done one. When was the last?
Been a while.
It's been a while.
No, we'll have to pay for it.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Quick shameless plugs. Don't forget we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcast, Zune Store. Since we're kicking it old school.
Going old school, yeah, sure.
Totally.
Spreaker wasn't even a
Wasn't
twinkle
even
in
a
its
twinkle in
daddy's eye.
iTunes.
I got to
eyes.
tell you, it wasn't a sprinkle or Spreaker now.
But while you're there, be sure and follow us so you never miss an episode. You can also leave us a review if you would be so kind. That's always super helpful. You can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/Real Spoilers. While you're there, like the page and join the group. It's called the League of Show Sharers because we're hoping you will join both on Facebook and just in real life by sharing an episode. People who were kind enough to share an episode this week: Chris Valls, Travis T. Witt, Chris Magic Man, David Rojas, Julianne Jordan, Brent Smith, Tammy Sherman Powers, Heather Sachs, Lane Levanway, Gabriel Lugo, Vertigay 314, We Have a Hulk, Ryan Terry from the Forza Crowd podcast, Colby Mack, Megan Kearns, I hope I'm saying that right, Nerd Revert, Cinema Recall, Spoiler Piece Theater, Geek to Me Radio, Ronnie Castle, Matt Naglia, Binge Movies, Mike and Oscar, Feel and Film, and Chris Williams. So thank you very much for sharing an episode. We greatly appreciate it. Also, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/Real Spoilers, where for $5 a month you get all sorts of bonus content and you help us out, and we like you extra.
There's one more Scream episode coming.
Okay.
By the time Scream 6 is out,
yeah,
the Scream 4
right.
episode
This one took a little bit to get done.
Doing the
but,
TV show?
No.
If you want to, if you want to be a complete,
It was definitely brought up on the Scream 4 episode because I didn't realize the age of the person I was talking to.
Right.
And she said that her introduction to Scream was the TV show. And I was like, how old are you? And she goes, 19. And I was like, what? So it's a very different...
You're like, oh, I needed to get permission from my wife to talk to you.
It is interesting to hear like her introduction to these movies, her takes on these movies from a completely different generation than who saw them originally.
It was a Scream TV show.
That's my point.
Yeah.
There's three seasons. First season is like basically Scream 1. Second season has nothing to do with anything.
Where did it air?
I don't know.
So the second season was technically a Halloween 3 season.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it had the same characters, but it didn't follow Scream 2.
Oh, gotcha.
But Scream season 3 is Halloween 3 season.
Were
of the
people
Witch.
from the movies actually in it?
No.
Okay.
It's the MTV like Teen Wolf.
Okay.
Like,
but weren't
new
there two?
teen-
Wasn't there a VHS Scream 2? There's two TV series as far as, I mean, I don't know the details, but I'm pretty sure that they did one and then it didn't work out and then they tried to do it again.
And there was a Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah.
That's
the
the Watchmen cartoon. Have you ever seen that?
If this was the 80s, there would be a Ghostface kids cartoon.
Yeah.
Of course.
I mean,
That's why the 80s were awesome.
Yeah.
Toxic Avenger. That's, that had its own cartoon at one point.
Rambo had a cartoon.
That Swamp Thing. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was crazy. So anyway, we're tackling deep fried tacos on this episode, and so I thought maybe we would begin with Dan giving us a history and the rules of the deep fried taco.
Okay, so let me go over because I had to make some notes.
He made notes and he has a presentation.
I do have a presentation. Yeah. So the deep fried taco, it really kind of dates back to 2003, and I refer to a movie as a deep fried taco because, actually I said, oh, it was like a drive-in movie. But the problem was at the time, there really wasn't many drive-ins. So I equated it to a Jack in the Box taco. And the reason being, it's not good, but they're amazing. So, with a regular, right? So, with a regular taco, you can make something delicious or appetizing. Some people can even make them kind of elegant or artful, because you can use any kind of ingredient, in pretty much any way, as long as the basics are adhered to, which is it's kind of an edible wrapper or a shell that you can fold and eat with your hands. That's, a taco. We can all agree.
Dan loves edibles. That's my takeaway.
Very selective hearing.
So the reason, like a Jack in the Box taco, the reason I mentioned this is because it basically throws out all of that. And it's like this compressed meat. And in the 70s, Tom might remember, there was this whole basically rumor that the meat was actually kangaroo meat. And I remember, I think I was around like 8 or 9 when that was going around, and I was just kind of like, okay.
So
and I kept
still tastes good.
Would kangaroos really be
like,
cheaper than beef?
Somehow it's more cost effective to fly to Australia.
I mean, hey, they're doing anything they can to deal with those kangaroos. Those suckers are mean.
It's jumping Jack in the Box.
There you go. So, I mean, it's this compressed meat, half a slice of cheese, a few shreds of lettuce, sometimes a squirt of hot sauce, sometimes not. Your mileage may vary. And it's all kind of slapped together and fried into this like scalding envelope of deliciousness or disgust, depending on how you see things. So here's some facts about those, though. First of all, you got to remember that a serving is 2 because they always come in 2. You can't buy a single one, and who would, weirdo? So anyway, this comes in at 340 calories, 19 grams of fat, 720 milligrams of sodium, 33 grams of carbs, 2 grams of fiber, 2 grams of sugar, 12 grams of protein. So there's an upside. But anyway, I mean, there's one thing that's important, and one aspect of the deep fried taco that you have to realize and remember, it can't be debated. It's that it's not good for you. So in 2003, I said, indeed, this movie was bad, but there was something good about it, at least in the sense that it made me kind of yearn for the drive-in.
Do you remember what that movie was?
That movie was Ang Lee's The Hulk.
Oh, wow, because that movie sucks.
It's so bad. It's so bad. In fact, I was like, I'm going to do diligence. I'm going to rewatch it. And I spent the past couple of nights trying to rewatch it. It's very long and really just so bad.
What were the good qualities of it?
The badness.
Okay.
That's the best part of a deep fried taco is it's good in its badness rather than bad in its goodness, which would be a different movie. But it's basically there's a certain amount of subjectivity that we have to take into account, and this thing is certainly. I don't think there's any subjective aspect to it. It's this weird, like Ang Lee's trying to make this art house macro nature photography kind of movie, but then they've got all these split screen panels that are really trying to emulate the comic book, which just do not work. And then the first thing in the movie when they get to the opening credits, I'm like, oh my God, they used Comic Sans, which is kind of dragging the bottom of font usage next to like Papyrus, Comic Sans, and sometimes Fajita.
Yeah, it's a little on the nose.
The worst fonts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh my
Although,
God.
can I make a brief defense of Comic Sans that I think a lot of people don't know?
Please.
Yes.
For some reason, it is easier for people with dyslexia to read if the font is Comic Sans. And a lot of people with dyslexia actually change their font setting to Comic Sans.
Wow.
I always knew I didn't like people with dyslexia.
Well, okay, so maybe it does have its core fans, and I don't want to offend them. But
everybody else is an idiot.
Yeah. Well, that movie is, and I think when I go through sort of the guidelines of deep fried tacos, it'll kind of make sense why this movie works for this. But I do want to say it's sort of like, big mass appeal movies generally can be agreed upon. But when it comes to junk, it requires like a different filter.
I always feel like
what they say.
One of the key aspects of a deep fried taco for me is that you know that it's really not a good movie and you love it, but you don't love it ironically. It's not like Plan 9 from Outer Space. Like it's a movie that you're basically like, I know this isn't good, but you're all wrong anyway.
You accept the flaws.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like a child.
Okay. Unless
they have dyslexia, Blake.
Yeah.
if Kevin allows me, I would do a screen share.
Oh, of course.
Okay. I mean, it won't do much for the listeners, but
we can share it on the post.
But it'll. I mean, if it's something that is anybody gonna watch?
Yeah, totally.
I fixed my horror and everything.
We will post this in the Facebook group, the League of Show Share. So if you've never joined, here's your moment. Here's the impetus.
Get ready.
This has audio, video components. This is a real presentation. Here,
Lovely.
Look at that.
The name and everything. This is great.
how's that look?
Looks
Good.
beautiful.
It's great.
Good. All right.
The font so far, I see no Comic Sans anywhere.
No Comic Sans. Yeah, I was like, oh my god,
For the listeners, this is straight up Helvetica, right?
Yeah, it is. So anyway, deep fried tacos, not necessarily the rules, but guidelines. Guideline number 1, earnestness. You can't really make a movie a deep fried taco. You can't set out to make a deep fried taco.
No Sharknadoes.
Right. You can't make a cult classic. You can't make a viral video. It just kind of happens. And it happens without your doing. So rather, these movies were made with the intention of being a success, which leads to our next guideline, failure. There should be some element of defeat, something that clearly didn't work or happen as intended. For these movies to connect, they offer something that some can look at or look beyond and see as a hit rather than a miss. But they are wide of the mark, leading audiences to approach with caution and causing many, if not most, to have low expectations. Standards have to be sufficiently diminished. Obviously, you're not expecting a masterpiece. You shouldn't really have any sort of bar to achieve. To truly enjoy a deep fried taco, you should openly know what you're about to dive into and expect it to be intensely underwhelming. That's why. That's what makes these that surprise and satisfy us all the more special, because they bring unexplainable joy.
I need to share this with my wife.
This is really.
She's like, yeah, you're married to a deep fried
I know,
taco.
you're married
honey.
to a deep fried taco.
So this is really what it's all about. I'm not listening anymore.
When we
This is
share
really
this
what it's
out,
all
can we
about.
change it all to Comic Sans, though, please?
I guess. This is really what it's all about. It's a giddiness that comes from appreciating the earnestness of the movie, despite your low expectations or its failure. It comes from biting into those calories, fat, milligrams of sodium, carbs, fiber, sugar, and protein, and tasting pure happiness. You know it's not good for you, but it's so deliciously bad you come to crave it time and again. So those are what I consider
That's pretty
to
good.
sort of
That
be
was
the
pretty
guidelines.
good.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Well done.
You. So.
Well, thank you. That's a great tutorial for people that are new to the work, because it's
Yeah.
been a few episodes
Well,
since we've done one.
It has.
Yeah,
it's been a
and
long
it's
time.
one of those things. It's like, and I even kind of went into this thing about there's like a reason why I would say something like Big Trouble in Little China isn't a deep fried taco, and it's because it's earnest and but it knows what it is. It's a martial arts action comedy buddy movie with some horror elements and all that, but it's a cult movie. It's a movie that when they made that movie, they had to know, well, this isn't really going to have much of an audience, and it didn't at all.
I heard an interview one time where Kurt Russell said that, I think he said he thought it was going to be huge. They all were so disappointed because they actually thought they had
really?
something, and it opened the way it did.
It did.
And they were just heartbroken by it.
Yeah. That's a movie that took 20 years to really get the traction that got people. When The Rock was talking about continuing with the story, and, a lot of people were like, what? Because they didn't even know what it was. And other people were up in arms because they're like, no, we don't want to see The Rock in this. We want to see,
the man,
Jack Burton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not Jack Burton's son.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
exactly.
Not the same.
Or his cousin, Jake.
Dan, did you know that there's a comic book that is Big Trouble in Little China meets Escape from New York? And the theory is that Snake and Jake are the same person but in different universes.
Oh, that's fun.
Really?
Yeah.
I knew there was a comic book. I did not know that's how they. I was like, how do they tie that together?
They do look alike. Yeah,
it's eerie.
Snake and Jake are multiverse variants of each other.
Oh, into the Carpenterverse.
Into the Carpenterverse.
Wow.
So I guess Kevin, why don't you give us a brief rundown of the real spoilers history of deep fried tacos?
Well, if you guys are anything like me and the listeners,
We're not.
Well, okay.
I just want to go on record.
Well, then I'm sure that you remember from all the way 8 years ago when we started Deep Fried Tacos. Then I certainly had trouble remembering the entire list of choices and how the show was, and it was really surprising to go back and listen to. I'll take you back to September 4th, 2014.
Okay, now wait.
Lord,
Not married?
Not married, a year before marriage.
No kid. Well, no new baby. I didn't have I had Gwen or Belle at that point. So like life was completely different for the Real Spoilers crew circa 2014.
I mean, it was so different. I mean, we had 5 hosts on the show. Blake was not on this episode, but we did have 5 hosts. It was episode 58. We were that early into the run.
Good
We were
God.
just over a year into it, and there was nothing new at the box office. So we all decided, well, let's just talk about our favorite.
Sensing a theme.
Yeah, it's Labor Day weekend.
And I think Tom said, or we decided, bring your favorite like bad movie that you love. Like, we did not have a name for it. That came during the episode where Dan coined the term, obviously based on his past experiences. We were broadcasting from the war room of the O'Keefe think tank.
Wait, what is that one?
Yeah.
Which one was
the
that?
first?
That was
My last house.
Yeah.
His old house.
Basement in the little-
Yeah, his
Oh
other
yeah,
house.
okay, yeah, right.
Out of the
right.
bunker into the
yes,
the war room.
I was thinking of the closet.
Yeah.
We went around the table introducing ourselves by first and last name. At that point in time, we were so new that we were saying our whole names. Guardians of the Galaxy was number 1 at the box office.
Kevin actually gave his social security number on
Yeah,
that episode.
right.
I thought it
Birthday,
was
the whole,
safe.
Yeah.
the whole
Well,
the
with
whole
our
thing.
listener base, it is.
Yeah.
There's
We'll
not
be
enough.
fine.
Yeah.
But Guardians, the first one, was number 1 at the box office. That's how long ago this first episode was. But here are the choices. So Dan chose Roadhouse, Joe chose Con Air, I chose Hackers, of course, and Tom chose The Adventures of Ford Fairlane.
No, wait, Dan, do all of those fit the criteria?
Yes,
Perfect.
those do actually fit the criteria.
I don't think we've ever had an episode, I don't remember, where the guys debated over the
I don't
validity
think
of
so.
it. I think we all pretty much did.
Yeah,
Okay.
no. I mean, because we can. One thing that's important to recognize with all those, they do adhere to the guidelines, and I mean, they were all pretty much. I mean, maybe Hackers wasn't, but they were all pretty much failures. Like, I don't know.
I thought Con Air was
I
a
thought
hit.
Con Air was a hit.
Yeah.
Oh, Con Air was a hit, but it outshines in the other guidelines. I mean,
Well, that's like a
and
Transformers
I remember,
type.
I was trying to remember. I specifically remember Joe talking about Con Air, and I do kind of remember being like, I don't know, but he won me over on that. one.
Yeah.
It's got the double feature of Face Off with it too, because he went from Con
Yes.
Air to
Yes.
Face Off literally a day apart.
Wow.
I
they-
rented those movies both those movies in the same day from Blockbuster. Like they were out together. They were out in the video store together at the same time.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Golden age.
Oh yeah.
Episode 58 to 157 was our next one, and that was February 5th, 2016. So about a year and a half later, Dan chose Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Fantastic.
Joe chose Airheads. I chose The Pest, and Tom chose Ishtar.
Oh, Ishtar's so good.
Episode 3, 234 on November 26, 2016. Joe chose Showdown in Little Tokyo based on his love for The Crow and decided
Yeah,
to...
that's why I watched it because Brandon
to
Lee was
jump
in
to a
it.
Brandon
And I was
Lee
like,
movie.
that's- I loved it.
Yeah.
I love it.
I chose Hook, and Tom chose Year One.
Yeah.
No Dan on that episode.
What did Blake choose?
Well, we'll get there. Episode 4, number 277 on May 4th, 2017.
A New Hope.
Dan chose 1941. I chose Your Highness. Joe chose Never Back Down. And Tom chose Joe versus the Volcano.
Oh, Joe, I'm with you. That's a good
Such a
movie.
good movie.
That is a good movie.
Yeah.
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 Now, episode 5 took another year and a half to make, so they're pretty consistent
Yeah,
in
that's-
the fallow period of movie going. And it was number 450 on February 7th, 2019. This episode featured Paul Harris to fill in for Dan.
What did Blake choose?
He wasn't on this episode. Joe chose Action Jackson. I chose Grandma's Boy. Tom chose MacGruber, and Paul chose Switch from 1991. And
Okay.
none of us had seen Switch.
I was familiar with it,
Yeah.
but I
Still-
had not seen
still
it.
haven't seen Switch.
MacGruber is such a hit that it has its own TV show.
That's
Yeah.
Not
true.
back in
Yeah.
2019. Not back. I was ahead of the curve. In fact, I think I spearheaded the MacGruber renaissance.
And finally,
I'm
our
part of that fan club too.
It's such a good movie.
I love that movie.
I will never look at celery the same way.
Nor should you.
Our most recent episode of Deep Fried Tacos was number 614 on November 12th, 2020.
And what did Blake choose?
He wasn't on that one. Tom chose Speed Racer, Joe chose The Quick and the Dead, and I chose Streets of Fire. So Blake has never been on a Deep Fried Tacos
That's
episode.
exciting.
We're going to have to ask you to leave.
Wow.
But how fun is that we got the whole gang back together
Yes.
and Blake's first Deep Fried Tacos
First
episode.
ever. And we already picked all the good ones, so
Okay.
Good luck.
it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
I actually had a list of ones that could have worked. So the one I did because I was like, I saw it on HBO Max, so I'll watch it again.
Okay.
I had to go to the guru himself to make sure that I had a deep fried taco. So I texted Dan like 8:30 last
get
night. I
his-
was like, "Hey man, does this one count?" And he was like, "I don't know."
Yeah.
Well, that's what he thought about Con
See,
Air. You
Joe's
want him
choices
over.
are
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
My choices are
It's-
great.
make your case. You will have to make your
It's
case.
true.
Well, I changed it. I
yeah.
sent him I sent him another one. I was like, "What about this
Yeah.
one?" He was like,
So-
spot on."
So where should we begin? Who should go first?
I feel like Blake should go first since he's never had to do one.
I feel like you should go last, and then we can cut him for time.
I agree.
We'll save his for last as the honorary new member. so.
Okay. So, well, then let's start with Dan, since he's the inventor of the deep fried taco, coiner of the phrase, owner of the trademark. Dan will.
We didn't buy that from him when he left.
We did not. That was part of his severance package.
Yes. I take Bitcoin, Venmo, PayPal, or Jack in the Box tacos.
We'll get
Bitcoin's
you-
half price right now. So
We'll
this
get
might
you
be a good
we'll get
deal.
you an NFT of a movie reel of like the Real Spoilers logo.
I can get you
That's
some
what we'll get
Peloton stock.
Maybe.
I think it's all on discount right now.
That's some stuff going on there. Okay, well, actually, I do. It's funny because as Kevin, as you were reading those, I was like, oh man, I hope this wasn't in there. And it is one that to go back to the sort of the roots of this all, the drive-in movie is I saw this at the drive-in, and it is 1987's Masters of the Universe.
Oh. Okay, so that oh my god.
Yeah.
Saw it in theaters as well.
I mean, you let's just start with the incredible Drew Struzan art.
So what
I mean,
what
you've
an
got this
amazing poster.
You looked at. I mean, I remember seeing the poster, and be like, "Oh my god!" You had the master of movie posters for the '80s and the '90s, some of the aughts. So you knew it's like, well, this is gonna be amazing. This guy's great, and he's the stamp of quality. He was always on. He always was a favorite of Lucas. He was a favorite of Spielberg. It was like you can't miss. You've got Dolph Lundgren, who his acting has been suspect, but he certainly looks the part. And then you got Frank Langella, who was a thespian, playing Skeletor. It's like, how can this go wrong?
Hey Dan, did it go wrong?
Oh, it's so bad. It's just so awful. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like at the drive-in, I remember sitting there being like, man, this is terrible. So good.
I feel like a movie can be
it's-
judged by how long it's on like TBS and TNT Purgatory in the 90s too. That one stayed there for a while.
It was, before we, kind of go into it, because, have you all seen
I
this
saw-
movie?
I've never seen it.
I saw it in theaters.
Oh,
I saw
So
it
that's
on TBS
I think
Purgatory.
so that came out like just as the He-Man Masters of the Universe cartoon was like on the decline. So like the timing
Yeah,
was
it
just
had
off.
turned.
Yeah, it had turned.
Yeah.
And I remember the trailer came out, and of course He-Man was a huge thing for me as a kid. And I've brought this up to my dad before. I was like, "Didn't we see that in theaters?" And he was like, "Yeah, we did." And I was like, "Yeah, that's oh man." But Courtney Cox is in it, right?
yeah.
But it has
Courtney Cox,
it has no ties to the show. Like there's no remnants of the show at all.
So well, I mean, that was like the first problem with this, is it starts out and you're like, all right, we're in Eternia. There's Castle Grayskull. and then you realize, maybe they didn't have all the characters that we thought we were going to see. Like there's He-Man and there's Skeletor, and I have to say, the makeup for Skeletor is a little, it's not great, but Frank Langella, he really went all in on this. He approached it like, this is going to be great. I'm going to embrace this, and he really is one of the highlights of the movie. Is how much he puts into this. Like he's chewing the scenery, which is hard because of the makeup. But you've got it's like, okay, so the whole thing is right off the bat they've got this Billy Barty's in it. So then you could say, okay, Billy Barty's in this. Nothing against Billy Barty, but anytime you had Billy Barty in a movie or a TV show, you kind of knew it was like, oh, here he was always in some sort of hokey little person role.
Well, there weren't a lot of really good little person roles out there,
right? But he's got a very distinctive voice, and it takes you to laugh in, right?
Totally.
It's like, oh, Billy Barty is just he had such an animated sounding voice, so I was like, well, okay. So then, of course, you've got He-Man and Skeletor. So it's like we're in a good spot. And then there's Man-at-Arms and Teela, and they kind of don't look like they should look based on the cartoons. It's like, look, you've got all these characters, you've got all these figures, so you shouldn't struggle to come up with a look for them, And then they've got the Billy Barty comes in, and he's the locksmith Gwildor, and he's this little he makes something called the cosmic key. And it's like, okay, what is this crap? And it plays, you got to play a little musical number on this thing.
It's like Simon. It's like playing Simon.
Yeah, it's like bloop, 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 and the thing starts, and it's like, and it starts, and then the effects, immediately you see, okay, this didn't really have much of an effects budget. I think they spent it all on Skeletor and the Castle Grayskull set.
Yeah.
And they did. That's it. The highlight of the movie and the best parts of this movie is the beginning, because it doesn't get any better. It only gets worse because, hey, guess what? The first thing they do, besides introducing a bunch of villains that we've never seen before.
Yep.
I think they have Beastman, and then they have some lizardy guy, and then some guy who clearly is one of those 80s villains. He's got stabby hands and forks and knives and all this stuff. And
but there's no Moss Man. Moss Man's not in it.
No Moss Man. There's no, Merman. There's none of that stuff. The first thing they do is use the cosmic key because Castle Grayskull's already been taken over. So they use the cosmic key to escape to Los Angeles,
where it's cheaper to film.
I was going to say.
Yeah. Well, it's when you're filming in Eternia,
they don't film,
Tom.
Yeah, they don't film. So then the battles of He-Man take place in Los Angeles in a school gym. They take place in a house, and they take place down a street.
That's pretty brilliant, though, to budget a big movie like this to set it in the real world where you have regular sets.
I don't get why it didn't work.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. The big midpoint action sequence takes place what basically looks like behind of a Home Depot. There's a bunch of pallets and.
It was a Lowe's. Thank you very much.
Sorry, yeah, it was Lowe's. Yeah, they had a little bit of budget.
Yeah.
This movie, it's just so awful, and with each passing minute, you can see that they had less and less budget to the point where there's a fight, and He-Man somehow is able to take one of the villains' hoverboards.
Yep.
And they're hovering down the street. And when they show the actors, they're clearly basically standing up on a car and keep looking back, and it's about 5 miles an hour going down the road. It's terrible.
Oh, it was like an episode of Boba Fett.
Yeah, it's same crew.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, the mods. Then when they show them full figure going by, it's clearly
that's nice for body positivity.
Figures. Yeah, it's some action figures just kind of going across. It's just it's just bad.
Did they watch Back
but
to the
it
Future
is-
2
it-
and go, we need hoverboards? Is that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It has that same sort of. If you want to see like you do a comparison and contrast, take that and then take this because
But
they
this
were
would
like, we should do that, but we don't have anybody.
But this would have came
This
out
was
before
predated
Back to the Future
Did
2.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 87.
So
Yeah.
Back to the Future 2 is
It's
90?
87.
Yeah, I think so.
No,
89.
I was gonna say, it wasn't in the 90s.
It's
but-
89, I
Okay.
think.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they
So
said
the,
that could be
villains, the
cool,
hench-
but we'll do it right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Hey, if you actually have somebody standing on something, it might work.
Yeah.
Saurod. So it's Beastman. Okay.
Okay.
Saurod, Blade, and Karg are the henchmen that they send. So basically, they're like, yeah, we can only afford to keep Beastman, and we're going to make keep him going on the animated series. The rest of you are all going to die.
Yeah, we're not. You're just put this red shirt on, will you? Because
Yeah.
we don't need you anymore.
Yeah.
I would love to be in the executive meetings for movies like this, where they're just like, "Oh, what do we care? That kid's gonna buy it anyways."
Canon Films, man. That's who this
Yeah.
is. This is
But they
Canon
do.
Films all day.
This is classic Canon Films. They do end up getting back to Eternia and back to Castle Grayskull to reclaim it, and have the slowest action battle between the two leads you will ever see. Because clearly, the sword seems to be very heavy. And Frank Langella can't really move, and so it's like this real slow-mo fight. But I will say one thing this movie does, and not a lot of movies did back then, is it does have a post-credits sequence.
Oh.
So
It's very forward thinking.
It is
Thought they had
gloriously bad.
Was
you
Ferris
really
Bueller
shouldn't.
the first, or what was the first?
I believe the first major motion picture with a post-credit sequence would have been the Muppet movie.
Oh, where they come? Where there's the usher? Who comes out? Like comes
Well,
out?
at the end,
Sweetums.
Sweetums bursts
Yeah,
through,
yeah,
and
yeah,
he's
that's
like,
right.
he's finally made it to
Sweetums, yeah.
Hollywood. Yeah,
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is it is epically bad. It is something though. It's like every time I get a chance to see it, I'm like, ooh, all right.
I own this on
It's-
Blu-ray.
I can't-
I absolutely have like
terrible.
the special edition of this movie.
Yeah,
That's
it's so. I mean, it does have, and it is widely considered a cult film, but I would say no, that's too generous. This is a deep fried taco.
yeah. The
It
cult,
did make 17 million, but
yeah, the phrase cult film gets thrown on a little too easily.
I would agree with that.
I think these days.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. It's like I think usually the producers or people involved with the movie are trying to they go, oh, it's a cult film.
Right.
No, it's
Trying to-
not.
Reclaim
No,
it.
it's
as a
not.
Yeah,
cult
right,
film,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
No, you
the
can't just
fans get
slap-
it, but you don't. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't slap that on. Yeah, cult film. There's a devout audience of people who will they make conventions that people
Right.
go to for cult films. Deep fried tacos. It's a very, very small number of people. You're not going to get a convention. You might get a Zoom.
Right. Which is what we have going on right now.
Cult film would be like
Exactly.
I think of Boondock Saints,
I think
which
Evil-
had that
Evil
really
Dead.
big.
Yeah, I think by the time
Yeah.
it gets elevated to cult film, then it's officially no longer a deep fried taco.
Yeah.
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 Which is why I had
Thank
to
you.
ask the
Yeah.
guru before
Right.
I picked mine.
Well, then let's
Yeah.
segue to see what Joe has brought to the table.
So it's funny, on the theme of Canon Films, all three of my picks are also from Canon
Yeah, we can
Films.
see a pattern.
Yeah. So I thought about Superman 4. I asked Dan about Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. But what I came down to is one of the things that I find about deep fried tacos is the time in which I saw them and how I saw them.
Right.
So there used to be an old video store at the top of my block. I've said this before, Star Video. It was basically like Quick Stop Video. Like there was a guy behind the counter that looked like Randall and would just let me rent whatever I wanted.
Right.
The one that comes to mind is that Canon Films had a good run of decent movies, ninja movies. They had just the movie Ninja that was perceived really well, Ninja 2 that did fairly well, Ninja 3 does not do well but kind of garnered a cult status, but didn't do well. And then they were just like, we need to make a white guy a ninja. Like that's what we need to do. And they made American Ninja. from 1985, starring Michael Dudikoff, who that guy's story is crazy. Like, he was kind of canon's golden child. Like, he was going to be Superman if they couldn't get Christopher Reeve back for Superman 4. He was going to be their Spider-Man when they had the rights to Spider-Man, when Toby Hooper was going to make a Spider-Man movie. And then he kind of just stuck around for Canon Films in like quote unquote ninja roles. That's basically what he did.
I'm not sure that's good for your long-term career.
It's not.
I'll just be the Canon film guy. That's great.
Be the
right?
Canon film guy. So he is a no-named army private. They don't, like, when they go to ask this guy's name, they go to look at his file and they're like, we got nothing. But like, he's walking around with the name Armstrong like plastered on his shirt the entire time.
Their record keeping was not that good back
But they're
then.
like, what's his birth date? Unknown. What's his name? Unknown. Where's he from? Unknown. I'm like, how did this guy get into the army with no information about him whatsoever?
I feel like they tend to ask questions.
A little bit,
They
yeah.
just took anyone back then. They were
They
desperate.
did, yeah. Well, it's post-Vietnam,
Yeah.
everything's kind of chilled
Gotta
out.
get the numbers up.
Yeah, gotta get those numbers up. So he accidentally thwarts a kidnapping of this corporal's daughter, played by Julia Aronson, who she was in a Friday the 13th. She was in, I think she was the friend in Weird Science. I think she was in that. And in doing so, he saves the corporal's daughter, but like loses 4 of the army dudes at the same time. So everybody hates him now because he let these men die, and like they court-martial. It's a big mess. Turns out the corporal is the bad guy the entire time. He's selling arms to this Filipino general. They don't really say Filipino bad guy who just wears white suits. That's how you know he's the bad guy, because he just wears white suits with like brightly colored
They gotta
ties.
get
And the whole movie takes place after Labor Day.
Yeah.
So that's how you know.
He is the worst.
Whoa. Yes.
And to Dan's point about the slow action, right? You're watching a ninja movie. You expect some decent ninja action.
Well, not if the ninja's American, I don't.
correct. That's true. You expect the other guys to beat up the American. No, it is some of the slowest, rudimentary, like, we're gonna flip you over my shoulder but go real slow because I don't know if I'm gonna land right. So it's just like some of the slowest and
I got sciatica.
some of the worst.
Steven Seagal later action like is
Absolutely.
I've seen the clips
Yes.
from when he got older and he just stopped like even getting up from chairs during action scenes.
Can you fight
They
me
just
from
like
this chair?
they like jump and roll
Like
over
Floyd the barber post stroke.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
What is Seagal beating him with a menu?
him. Yeah, it's watch those clips.
What
Look
was
up
the
Seagal.
One? Oh, the Glimmer Man. That's the one with Keenan Ivory Wayans. That's real bad.
Okay.
So
I'm
yeah,
talking
so-
like in the last 5 years, he's still trying to do movies sometimes,
And he is-
and the people like flip over him, like he touches them and they
Have
do
you
a
ever
flip.
seen his Aikido like actual demonstrations?
I believe so.
Where like people just run at him and he just like
That's the same,
barely
yeah.
moves and
Yeah,
like,
and they fly over him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
where it comes from.
Yeah.
Because Aikido is really, really silly.
It's like an art. It's just
He,
like a
he does
performance.
martial arts the way a televangelist does faith healing.
yes, yes.
pretty
Where
good.
people go, oh,
Yeah.
So he ends up getting framed for the murder of all of because the corporal or the corporal and the sergeant, they all know that he actually knows what's going on. So he has to fight his way out. And it's not good. It's really not good. The whole ending sequence, like, it comes down to the other thing is he's like Jason Bourne. He has amnesia. He doesn't know where he comes from. He doesn't know anything about himself. He just knows that he can do all
but he
of these-
remembers ninja crap.
But he remembers all of his training from this guy. So it turns out
it's been built into
it is
him. Okay?
hard. It is hardwired into his DNA that he can do ninja moves very slowly. So the end fight is like the big ninja versus our American ninja, and all of a sudden, the head bad guy ninja has like guns, like gauntlets in his armor, and he just starts shooting at the ninja. At Joe
Ninjas
is the
love
guy's
guns.
name. And then
ninjas are all about guns.
out of nowhere, he has lasers and just starts shooting. It's just one. It's
I'm a little disappointed that they called it American Ninja when they could have called it Laser Ninja.
They could have.
That feels like a missed
I mean,
opportunity.
the Japanese are very technologically savvy.
That's true.
Seriously,
That's
though,
true.
What is better though than a movie called American Ninja? Where
American
they're trying
Ninja.
to create ninjas with the American sense, and they give them guns and lasers.
Guns and lasers.
It's
Yeah.
I mean,
But it's not mentioned. It's just one time he shoots one laser and that's it. It's never brought up
but
again.
someone said
It's never
these
referenced again.
ninjas are pussies. They need guns.
So the
Because
crazy
it's
thing,
not really fair if you're always going to the laser.
I guess that's true.
You know what I
get
mean?
one.
Right.
Not
You
really
get
a
one.
ninja.
It's like in video games when you have like that one special move and
Right.
you got to wait to the right
Yeah.
point to use it.
Yeah.
Well, he used it poorly.
I always ended up dying without using it because I'm always like, well, maybe I'm going to need it more later. Oh, I'm dead.
Battery tech in the 80s was very unadvanced.
He
at
just
the
had
time.
one
He had
giant
one-
D-cell
yeah.
battery like attached to his back. He's like, you get one. That's all you get.
You get one shot. Sorry. About
So of course the
There's a
movie
very long refractory period.
he saves the daughter and every happy ending. Blah blah blah. This movie somehow
Oh, there's
managed.
a happy ending.
Yeah,
It's
of
not all
course.
bad.
Not all bad.
So there was more than one laser shot.
There was one. Yeah, there was an extra one.
I'm just
doesn't-
waiting for the maracas.
Dan doesn't know. The maracas are here and Dan's on
I know. I'm like,
At least we can get the groan though.
Yeah, the groan is worth
the
a-
trademark groan.
two maraca shakes as a
Yeah.
groan. Somehow this movie got 3 sequels. There's an American Ninja 2, also starring Michael Dudikoff. There's
American
an American
Ninja in Paris.
That's right. American Ninja 3 with
The Legend of Curly's Gold.
I guess they couldn't get Michael Dudikoff to come back for 3, but they did get
I mean,
him to,
how do you really get someone back of that star power?
that you are.
But how do you
spot
recapture
on.
that magic?
Yeah.
You don't. You bring him back for part 4.
3
That's what you
lasers.
do.
Oh.
They-
Oh,
They
it's like
really?
the Fast and Furious. of
so the guy that they got in part 3 comes back for part 4, and they're like, "This is what we're gonna do." They Highlander endgamed it, where they just brought both guys together and put them together.
Vin
This was-
Diesel's like, have you guys ever seen the American Ninja movies?
So this was originally made initially for Chuck Norris. If you know anything about canon, it's like that they had 2 piles. That's the theory. Is that they had two piles of scripts. One for Chuck Norris, and one for Chuck Bronson. Like that's what they had, and they're like, "Which one would you like?"
it's true.
And they would also send like promo stuff before they'd even made the movie, right? So if you look, there's promo images for Spider-Man. There's promo images for Masters of the Universe 2.
Probably trying to get money.
Superman 5. That's exactly
Yeah.
what they were doing. So they released a promo of the American Ninja with Chuck Norris, and then Chuck Norris is like, "No." He's like, he covers his face the entire time. I'm not doing that.
Oh, he does.
But he doesn't.
Oh,
Like, he doesn't wear a face covering until the last 5-10 minutes of the movie.
Dudikoff's like, yeah, I'm not doing that.
Dudikoff's like, "You're going to pay me how much?" Okay. But like again with the, Canon Films is notorious for cutting budgets like as movies are going, and it's obvious in this one as well. Like they started off really well and then it just got progressively worse
Yeah.
as they went.
I'm gonna sue Canon Films because I saw a Chuck Norris promo. And
There's no Chuck
did
Norris.
you see the
Yeah.
news about Ana de Armas where
From the movie yesterday.
yeah, where people
Yeah,
are suing because
yeah.
she was in a trailer for Yesterday and then she's not in the actual movie?
The Beatles movie?
Yeah.
Oh,
She
really?
she was a cut
She was the
So-
alternate love interest,
Yeah.
and they decided not to use that
because it made him
storyline.
seem like a jerk.
Oh.
Like
Even
how
though,
many?
even though the whole point of the movie was
Is he's
that
a-
fame turns the guy into
Into
a
a jerk,
jerk,
right?
Yeah.
Like how many movies?
That was a
how
cute
many
movie.
movie trailers cut anything? It doesn't matter if a
Shailene,
person's in it.
Shailene Woodley was in Spider-Man 2. She filmed a bunch as Mary Jane. She filmed a bunch of stuff as Mary Jane. And they're just like, never mind.
But yeah,
Cut that out.
It's so ridiculous. I'm like, if there's anything, I want to see that Bradley Cooper scene from Licorice Pizza where he's smashing the cars.
Yeah.
I'm like, get a lawsuit for that because I want to see that scene. That he's so great in that movie, and that scene looked crazy.
Let's
to
just
me.
Yeah.
sue everybody.
Yeah, well,
kind of
that's
where we
kind
are.
Of the mentality.
Yes.
I will say,
Let's go American Ninja.
on them all.
Remake.
There are 2 great documentaries about Canon Films. One is called Electric Boogaloo because they produced
Yeah.
Break-In series.
the Break-In
It's
series.
fantastic.
And that's not produced by the guys that created Canon Films. The guys that created Canon Films knew that there was a documentary coming out that may or may not in them, so they rushed a second documentary out. That
Classic Canon films.
Classic Canon films.
They're like
by Chuck Norris.
they're like you.
Chuck Bronson.
They're like you effed with the wrong movie studio.
So they put out a second documentary that paints them in a very different light. They are both thoroughly enjoyable. Electric Boogaloo is kind of where it's at. That's the good one. But they're both out there.
Yeah.
They're both very good. So
Awesome.
there you go.
What is the
Ninja
name of
Warrior.
that second one? Because I did not even know about it.
I don't know. I'll look it up. But Electric Boogaloo is
All right.
is the better of the two.
You're
Oh
gonna
yeah,
get that
if you
dirt.
haven't seen that, you need to see that. They have a lot of people involved in that. Dolph Lundgren is actually a hoot in it because he kind of like bags on He-Man.
It's so weird to know
You know,
that he's like such a smart
he's even
dude.
pointing
Yeah.
at the he's pointing at the poster. He's like, "Look, this should be good. It should be Dolph."
It's called The Go-Go Boys. The inside
Oh.
story of Canon
Okay.
films.
Like, oh,
That's
and why did they call it?
I don't know.
You did- okay.
But that's them.
All right.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
Canon
is it-
films.
Yes.
Is it Golan Globus? I mean,
Oh, maybe that's what it is.
Menachem-
Like they're both of their names start with
Yeah.
G-O.
Okay.
So yeah, that's probably right.
And they're trying to make their own like little monikers.
Yeah.
Hey, we should call us the Go-Go Boys. Yeah, hey,
Quit trying to make
Go-Go
fetch a
Boys.
thing, Canon films.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh goodness. So who's next? Me or you?
Yeah, I'll go for it.
Okay.
So the year is 2004. The film is directed by Jeff Schaffer, the executive producer of Seinfeld and the showrunner of Curb Your Enthusiasm. He'd go on to create some shows, The League and Dave, recently with Lil Dicky. Okay. The film is also executive produced by Ivan Reitman. It stars Matt Damon, Jeffrey Tambor, Lucy Lawless, Fred Armisen, Vinnie Jones, and cameos. It also stars Scott Micklewitz, Jacob Pitts, Travis Wester, and Michelle Trachtenberg.
Oh,
With the popularity of the horny teen comedy like American Pie, Road Trip, Van Wilder, the filmmakers decided to follow the footsteps of another popular raunchy movie that came out a few years earlier. This movie is called Euro Trip.
Oh God.
I just watched this again a few months ago.
I love this movie.
Never seen it.
It is just right in the sweet spot for our age, me, Joe, Blake. We're like 2004. We're at that age. The American Pie stuff, Van Wilder, all that stuff is huge. And Road Trip was
Berlin? I am going nowhere near Berlin.
Yeah, in 2000, Road Trip comes out, and then they're like, well, we got to let's do this again and do it with the horny teen comedy. And this movie is hilarious. It's endlessly quotable. There's so many things from people of our generation that comes from this thing. There's the email that comes in, mail, motherfucker. I knew so many people that had that as their text message ringtone type thing. Right? You've got that. You've got the me scoozy from
Probably
Fred
one of the
Armisen.
greatest cameos.
Oh, I think it absolutely.
Matt Damon has the greatest cameo of all time.
And the
in
fact
that
that they
movie.
got him for this.
I don't even think he was paid, is what I heard. Or if he was, it was like scale. It was,
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was like he was a friend of
It's one of the. This is the Project Greenlight guy, isn't it?
No, I don't think.
Because this guy was a producer on Seinfeld. I mean, he's been around for a while.
Yeah, it was like a college friend's friend. Or
Oh,
whatever.
okay,
And they're
okay.
like, yeah, I'll do that.
It was during the Gulf War and a SARS outbreak. They couldn't get anyone to do a cameo, but it was relief they found out Damon was in Prague and willing to help.
That's so great. I mean, it's
crazy.
So because when he shows up, your mind is blown because you're watching this movie, which again we all love, is hilarious, but you don't expect Matt Damon, who at that time, I mean, he was a serious actor.
Oh, yeah.
You did not expect it. So when he shows up, it's
As
great.
opposed to now, where he's just garbage.
Well, now he just talks about crypto.
Yeah,
so
he's shilling Bill Bitcoin.
how the mighty have
or
fallen.
Bitcoin knockoffs.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, this movie is, it starts off with that 2000s
man.
infographic style, and it's great. There's the great music in it. It's like it just
Who's
has
the girlfriend? Isn't that Lana Lang from Smallville?
Yeah, Kristen Kruk.
Kristen Kruk.
Yeah.
Is that Fiona?
is
That
Fiona,
breaks
yeah,
up with her,
yeah.
So we're introduced to Scott and Fiona. They're at graduation. Fiona dumps Scott, and his family instantly surrounds him. And Jeffrey Tambor, the dad, is trying to videotape, and he's heartbroken. He just got dumped. She's like, yeah, and we don't know for who yet. So the next day, Scott gets an email or later that night, he gets an email from his pen pal, who he thinks is named Mike.
Yeah.
And so they go for a little bit thinking his friend Cooper is like, yeah, just your weird internet friend sounds like he wants to have sex with you. I mean, this is the early 2000s. So
Which,
of course,
by the way, I saw. So Cooper is that guy who plays Cooper is so
Jacob
good
Pitts.
at that, is such an asshole and great in this role. And I've seen the first season of what's that Jessica Biel, The Sinner.
The Sinner.
Okay.
He's like one of the like main like antagonists in that first season, and I'm like,
oh really?
And I'm like, wow,
Is he
like,
good?
He's great.
Have you seen that show?
No,
that show's really good.
Because I was wondering where he went, because I was watching this thinking he's so good in this role, like he's perfect.
Completely opposite.
D-bag.
Oh.
He's like a kind of a white trash like
Yep.
like D-bag in the Sinner. He's really
Gotcha.
It's all on Netflix. Good stuff.
So he's like, stop messing around with this guy wants to have sex with you probably. It's the 2000s, of course. The comedy's dated. It's full of the gay jokes or whatever. So they go to a party, and this is where, out of nowhere, Scott's kind of just, bummed out, and then this song comes on, and we see Fiona run to the front of the stage, and you're like, oh, that's his girlfriend.
Which, by the way, lots of house parties have like full
band. Yeah.
Like I'm thinking of like old school when like they
Yeah.
got the stage in the back.
Well, at least at a fraternity party.
Yeah.
I guess that's true.
It's a little different.
And he's the owner of a
bunch of like successful
speakers,
sound system
like so
stores.
he would probably like have
That's
access
true.
to
That's
stuff like
true.
that.
But that's also what's great about this movie, because the style is so unique. And like I read the credits of the director and the writer of this movie, like he's got a really good finger on the pulse of comedy and has for many years. And so you've got this like irreverent random humor that's almost like a parody movie. It reminded me of like a Loaded Gun or like of a Naked Gun movie,
like a Zaz movie.
Yeah, exactly. Just like you can clearly tell his inspiration was Zaz movies. And so
I can't stop it.
but so you get really random stuff, like the party stuff is random. The things that happen are random, like Leslie Nielsen would get in some weird situation in Naked Gun. Like it doesn't live in the real world, but then it also has this silly teen comedy thing. So it's a really funny style. So anyway, Matt Damon comes out and sings Scotty Doesn't Know, which again, like that song, everyone was singing that and repeating it.
We felt bad for our buddy names. Looking back on it, we had a buddy named Scotty.
Right, if you ever had a friend named Scott, that's the thing.
Yeah.
So it became such a thing with people our age that loved this movie. And so, and the whole lyrics of the song, like the thing he's and he goes, this is dedicated to the freakiest little sex puppet he knows. Happy anniversary to the girl that just dumped Scott, the day
we should
before.
play it over like in the episode. We should put some of it in the episode because it's so good.
Scotty doesn't know that Fiona and me do it in my van every Sunday. She tells him she's in church, but she doesn't go. Still she's on her knees, and Scotty doesn't know. Oh, Scotty doesn't know. Oh, so don't tell Scotty.
Yeah, as long as Facebook doesn't.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
But everyone at the party is cheering and rocking out, and Scott is just like brokenhearted. So the next morning he wakes up from being hungover.
The best thing too about that song is how they use it in the rest of the movie too, like
in different languages. Or?
Well, like it's in like there's like elevator music version of it at one point.
Oh
and,
yeah,
like it's like
just,
a worldwide hit that follows him around.
Yeah, it follows him around the entire.
Sometimes subtly
like,
to where it just again
the whole song is basically about Matt Damon.
He thought that you were at church,
plowing the bejesus out of Fiona, and like
he thought that you were at church, but she was on her knees.
Yeah, Scotty's like watching
know.
this entire. Oh, it is.
It's such an awkward moment. Everyone's cheering, and he's brokenhearted already, and he hears these lyrics. Like it's funny. It just is. So the next morning, he wakes up hungover, and his little brother's at his computer reading his emails, and he's like, "Who's Mika?" And he's like, "You're stupid. It's Mike." "No, you moron. It's Mika." And he's like, "No, here's a picture." And it's like this big German guy and this beautiful woman, and he's like, "No, there's her cousin Jan, or no, that's Jan, and that's Mike. No, that's Jan, a male German name, and that's Mika." And so he's like, "Oh my God, I didn't mention the night before he like blows off Mike's email and is just like, you're creepy based on Cooper's advice. Don't ever contact me again. Get your hands away from my genitals." And this woman's basically was like trying to reach out and come to America and everything. So anyway, he realizes that he's been an idiot, and Cooper convinces him to go to Germany and find Mika, apologize, and get some. Again, raunchy teen comedy. The whole point is, let's go to Germany to get some.
It's like Stripes, right? Like that's where they end up finding, who is it? PJ Souls and Sean Young.
So halfway around the world in Germany, we see that Mika has blocked him, like email blocked. Don't have her number or whatever. So Cooper convinces them to go. They get cheap airfare working as couriers. Like, at least the movie has its own internal logic. One thing I really like is how you're just like, well, yeah, this is a ridiculous premise, but they actually like explain little things along the way to where it's like, okay, well, yeah, I guess this would kind of work out. But they go to a pub. They meet Vinnie Jones, who leads the soccer hooligans there, and they show up, and Vinnie Jones like, this is a members-only club. Sing the Manchester United rally song or whatever. And they start singing like, it's not Sweet Caroline.
Sweet Caroline.
But is it Sweet Caroline?
I think it is
Sweet Caroline.
No, it's not. But it's
She takes the.
Oh,
yeah. And so
Morning Train.
Yeah.
yeah. And so they look at him. They
What's that?
said well done.
By Sheena Easton.
So there it is.
Yeah.
That's what I
So there's
expect.
It
moments.
was originally called 9 to 5, but they had to because
Because of the
they,
movie?
but they had to change it because of the song 9 to 5
Yeah.
by Dolly Parton.
Dolly.
But in other
Right.
parts of the world, it's called 9 to 5.
See? That's why you're here.
Yeah,
But this movie's basically told in like,
and it's my house.
That's
Oh,
true.
true.
That's a
Yeah.
good point. That's fair.
but there's so many little vignettes like this. They're all just
It's
so
like a bunch
great.
of sketches that are put.
That's
together.
exactly what it always.
But it
always
feels
thought it's-
organic.
yeah.
It feels like a movie, though, right? So
There's
it
some
doesn't.
connective tissue.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like just sketches. The thing is that you're with these characters. It's funny. The sketches are all good. They're all good segments. So Vinnie Jones and the soccer hooligans are pulling up their sleeves, getting their brass knuckles out, about to fight him. And Vinnie Jones looks at him and goes, pretty damn good. And they all start singing Morning Train together. It's just funny. They wake up the next morning. They're on the double-decker bus, and they realize that they're going in the opposite direction. And so they're in France now, and they see a French guy with the French soccer jersey on, or football jersey. And
Get it right.
I know. I'm
Yeah.
just, we're in France now. And they all start chasing.
You can tell because the ladies wear no pants.
That's right.
Oh.
That's how you know. Yeah.
So anyway, they're in Paris, and they join up with the twins. They're going sightseeing. The twins are Michelle Trachtenberg and the other guy, who are both good, really good too. And they basically they get into a fight with a street performing robot and do like a dance fight movie. And this is another one of those Zucker Abrams moments where like it doesn't make any sense in the real world, right? Like the movie's not grounded, but it also isn't a parody movie. It lives somewhere in between, to where like this robot guy is like Scott starts doing a robot dance. The robot guy's like, this is my territory. And then they have a dance off, but it's a fight. But Scott is fighting him in slow motion with robot moves.
like Matrix style.
Yeah.
almost.
To where like this in the real world, obviously nothing like that would happen, but it's a part of this world that we're watching, and it just happens, and it's hilarious. And they're fighting, and really, it's not like they're pretending. You feel like they're fighting in this style. It makes no sense, but it's so good. And like this street, I didn't get his name, but the guy that plays the robot is a character actor that's been like 100 things. Like there's so many people in this movie. After that, they get stuck on a train with a creepy Italian guy played by Fred Armisen. Every time they go under a tunnel, Fred Armisen has his hand on his leg. He gets closer to it's the boy brother.
It's the brother. Yeah.
Who's Jamie, I think is his name. I couldn't even.
Which that's probably one of the earlier Fred Armisen roles that I remember.
Oh, I don't even remember him before that. Like
he
I
was on
realized
SNL probably.
No,
2004?
Not then?
This was way before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, I was that
because when I went back and watched it one time, I was like, oh, that's Fred Armisen.
He started in Blue Man Group, didn't he?
He did?
I think
Oh.
so.
He was
Yeah.
part of it.
Oh,
He was
that's
part of it,
wild.
yeah.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah.
So Jamie, he keeps getting closer to Jamie every tunnel, and then they're like, a long one. And like, obviously today, this type of joke is not acceptable, but it's not like this guy was really in danger. Like he puts his hand on his leg and he's like, "Mi scusi." It's just a stupid joke, right?
Yeah.
It's dumb humor. So then they're like, it's a long one. They go through the tunnel and you hear Jamie like, ah, and then Fred Armisen has his pants off and he's smoking a cigarette. Nothing really happened, but it's just a dumb joke.
Oh,
So
something happened.
well, we're led to believe, but Jamie's not distraught, like, in the corner or anything. It's just goofy, right? So anyway, next they go to
Okay, Louis C.K.
Yeah.
They end up going to Amsterdam, and that's where they see Lucy Lawless. She runs a club called Club Vanda Sex. Yeah. And again, the humor in this movie hits so well. She welcomes Cooper, and Cooper is like all sexed up, and he wants to go to the club. And she's like, "I will fulfill all your fantasies, anything you want." Blah blah blah. And he holds up a flyer and goes, "And it says I get a free T-shirt if I bring this flyer." like she's like, every fantasy, whatever. And he's talking about the T-shirt. Yeah. Little stuff like that. It's so random. Which
He's the Stifler of that movie.
Yeah, pretty much. So meanwhile, Scott and Jenny are sharing hash brownies, or what they think are hash brownies, in this Rastafarian place. They're in Amsterdam now. And then Jamie goes to get his camera serviced because he's like, he's a
Yeah, he has a Leica like M5 or
M7,
something.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And the worker says, "What is that, an M6?" He's like, "M7." And so he's sweet talking her. They go out back in the alley and start hooking up. And it's Diedrich Bader comes by to rob him. Like there's so many random stars in this movie. I guess because the director, I mean, he's done a lot of stuff. So he gets robbed, and without their money and their passports and all they're forced to hitchhike. That's where they get the funny driver guy who all he does is speak German, and they don't really understand him. And
But they just hear Berlin.
Scott's German is horrible, so he's like, blah,
And
blah,
he's
blah,
like,
blah,
"Oh,
Berlin.
Yeah, I'm going nowhere near Berlin.
And yeah, there's
Like,
subtitles. Yeah. I killed a man in Berlin. I'm never going anywhere near there again. And they all look at each other. Berlin, yeah.
like when he's making like the stabbing motion too. Like
yeah. I mean, so many great moments.
that's
So
one of my favorite scenes in that movie.
it really is. And it's endlessly quotable with all these little things. So they end up going to this little shanty town. They go to
it's Eastern Europe. So
Yeah.
they like Eastern Europe. And so one of my best friends, he's married to a Slovakian woman. They met while he was doing his master's at Mississippi State. Now they live in Poland, but she hates this movie.
Oh.
Because the country they're in is Slovakia.
Oh. Okay.
And-
They don't call it Slovakia, but is that what they're alluding to? They call it like
it's what city is it?
started with a B, and I can't remember. It's a city in Slovakia.
Yeah,
Okay.
but Miami Vice, #1 new
yeah,
show.
yeah. There's this like they're so outdated from America.
Yeah.
This guy's just like
So like she hates it. So I sent her a Miami Vice Christmas ornament last year.
oh my god.
But from the movie.
No,
Oh,
just
no,
the
yeah.
Miami
Yeah.
Vice.
Hilarious.
Jeremy, my buddy, he likes to. He's like a dad joke troll. Like he just loves to like needle and push, and so I'm like, I thought he would enjoy that. So.
So they're in this city, and they go into a club. They apparently have this awesome club in there, though, and they're playing a foreign cover. Scotty doesn't know the DJ's playing this remix. I mean, the song is
you also have to. They're broke.
yeah.
They have like $5 between them or whatever, but apparently that gets them anything they want.
Yeah.
Because the exchange rate is so high in Eastern Europe.
So you see
They
them.
buy the hotel with like a dime or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
They're taking absinthe.
Gee, I wonder
shots.
why she doesn't like this movie.
Yeah.
I had never until Moulin Rouge. I didn't know what absinthe was, and I think this movie was
It makes the heart grow fonder.
yeah.
There it is. Good
Apparently, they're playing up on the popularity of that, so they're all doing absinthe and they're seeing green fairies and all that.
Are they really seeing green fairies, or is it more gay jokes?
This is the real green fairy.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah.
just checking.
So he finally makes him Mika's apartment, but he's too late. After she got Scott's mean email, she decided to leave for the summer. She was going to visit America, but
They have the weird little Hitler child.
yeah, I mean, that's just another joke that probably wouldn't fly. But it's stupid. It's a kid in Germany, and he draws a marker mustache and is in the background howling.
He's goose stepping in the background.
Yeah, anyway, it's just a dumb background joke. But the dad says she's already left for the summer. She's taking a tour at the Vatican before she leaves. So they're like, well, we have no money, whatever. Jamie makes the nice move. I mean, there's heart in this movie, surprisingly, but Jamie sells his prize camera, his M7, so they can get money to travel and to get him to the Vatican. So the final scene, or one of the final scenes, really, the climax here is when they go through a series of
long
hijinks.
tunnel?
Yeah. One of they're going through a series of hijinks in the Vatican, and so Cooper and Scott are unknowingly ring the bell, signifying that the Pope is dead. Then they're trying on the papal hat, and like it catches on fire on one of the candles, so they throw it in the chimney. Then white smoke is coming out of it, and everyone in there in Rome is like, "Oh, they've elected a new Pope." They're mourning him. Then they go to, "Oh, they've already elected one," and they're saying, "Oh, history in the making." And Scott tumbles into some gold robes and things, and like dresses up like the Pope. Just goofy, reverent, like
That's very like airplane.
it is
that
totally.
is-
He stumbles into the robes and puts them on and trips out the window, and then he's on the ledge, and they're all like, "Hey, it's the new Pope," and he's sitting there waving. Super goofy, but he spots Mika in the crowd. He runs down there, professes his love to her, and of course she just thinks that's amazing. They're about to get apprehended by guards, and Vinnie Jones and the soccer hooligans show back up and save the day, and of course the guards are like, "Oh no, soccer hooligans, we better let him go," and that's the end of that conflict. They end up hooking up, and there's this scene where they're in a confessional.
And it's what's her name?
Mindy Sterling.
Yeah, from Austin Powers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mindy Sterling shows up, and they're banging in the confessional, and like she's like, "Father's telling him something," and up against the window you see butt cheeks just pressing against the thing.
So ridiculous.
So Mika leaves for her trip and says, "Scott, write me. We're going to stay in touch." Jamie stays behind to work for Frommer's tour tour books, and the other ones go home. 3 months later, the three of them are at college. Jenny and Cooper are dating now. Cooper finally realizes Jenny's a girl. He always thought of her as a dude before. And Mika shows up to surprise Scott as his college roommate because the school mistook her for a guy, Mike, just like he did. So it all comes full circle, happily ever after. It's such a silly movie. I didn't even mention, like, they go to a nude beach because, of course, guys going to a nude beach. And at this season is tourist season, so it's all dudes. You see just like 50 wieners hanging out. I mean, it's that type of shock
Old
humor.
fat dude.
It's everyone that's going to
Tiny
see
dicks everywhere.
everyone going to see naked women, and it's all dudes, and they're running away. Michelle Trachtenberg shows up, and the brother Jamie is like, no, because she's about to take her swimsuit off. This is a nude beach, right? She just showed up, and all the guys chase her, and you see naked old butts, going at it. It's a
Flat butts.
It's a fun movie to where I recognize some of it wouldn't play today, but I still watched it and I'm like, any of it is not malicious, right?
It's not
like,
mean-spirited.
It's not mean-spirited.
It's a product of its time.
It's a product of
Yeah.
its time. Yeah. It still is funny. Like, it still holds up, and it was a good watch.
And it's definitely, you had to be in the right age group for it. Like, you and Dan probably wouldn't enjoy it as much as...
Which is what
Yeah.
makes it the
It
deep
was-
fried
yeah.
taco,
Did
right?
We grew up with movies like Porky's.
Yeah.
So-
And this is
Right.
and this is the
I think this is
reboot.
in the vein of Porky.
This
very
is
much so.
100%.
This is I have seen this movie, and everything you're saying, I'm like, oh my god, I remember this.
But
it's Porky's of its time.
this is Animal House, Porky's for the 2000s generation.
Yeah.
Was Sex Drive the one that killed this entire genre?
I
Was
think
that the
so.
end? Was that the end of it?
Road Trip was good and received well. Then this, I mean, people loved it our age, and it did okay. And then I think Sex
Drive and Accepted were like the last two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll move on to mine. And so harken back to 2008, a time when Colin Hanks could get top billing over Emma Stone.
I know what this is.
And it's a Happy Madison production, which I know is not filmmakers I would typically go to. But
Grandma's Boy was one of mine. That's a Happy Madison.
so this stars Anna Faris. It's House Bunny.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that's what I thought this was. I was like, this is either
I forgot
Orange.
Emma
This is
Stone was in that.
Yeah,
this
and
is either Orange County or that one.
And so's Kat Dennings is in it as well.
This is a funny movie. I'd put it right up there. I'm with you on this one.
This is such a funny movie, and it has no right to be. Like, on paper, it just sounds like it would be awful and just offensive.
Yes.
And so Anna Faris plays Shelley Darlington. She's an orphan who cannot get picked from the orphanage because she's so ugly, and then she hits puberty and becomes a smoke show, and ends up once she's of age moving into the Playboy Mansion where she resides for the entirety of her adulthood until she is finally kicked out of the Playboy Mansion for the crime of turning 27, which we are told is 59 in bunny years. So it's like Menudo for hot chicks.
That's right.
Yeah, and so she ends up through a series of plot machinations that they luckily don't spend too much time on because we don't care.
We don't need
Just
it.
get to it.
Yeah, right.
Like, she becomes the house mother for a sorority, and they're kind of like female Revenge of the Nerds. Lambda.
That's
So,
right.
Yeah.
Also, kind of
Tri-Lambda.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you get to see Emma Stone playing nerdy, which she surprisingly pulls off.
Well,
Like,
she was I guess she was super cool in Superbad. That's what I first remember seeing her in. But
I
she
think that's her
wasn't
first
nerdy.
movie, and I
Yeah.
think this might
But
be
she was very
her
cool.
second movie.
Yeah, I think this is her second.
Yeah, and but she's great in it, and everybody's game, and Anna Faris is fun to watch because for a woman who's very attractive, like, she has no vanity, like, and she will go where the joke takes her.
She's very talented at figuring out comedy.
Yeah, and she's not locked into being quote unquote the hot chick. And
Yeah.
so
She
this
was great in Scary Movie, which does
Yeah,
the same thing, right?
totally.
Like, she's
And this-
attractive, but she does all the goofy.
yeah, and this
another
movie
Deep Fried Taco, Just Friends, where she's the
Oh,
crazy pop star. or
yes.
whatever. Like, she's good at playing those type of roles.
yeah,
And they
and,
tried making Amy Smart a thing.
yeah. And this movie, it's very similar in beats to Legally Blonde, which makes sense because it's written by the same people,
That's
the
what I
same
thought.
women who wrote
Yeah.
Legally Blonde
Find,
wrote
replace.
this. Yeah, and although honestly, it's a merger. Like, they were working on a pitch for a movie about somebody who takes over as house mother who's woefully inequipped. while Anna Faris was pitching a movie about someone who gets kicked out of the Playboy Mansion.
Oh, really?
And goes back home
That's fun.
and ends up doing drugs. And they were like, well,
Jesus.
we'll take the first half of yours and the back half of ours and have at
Does
it.
the cover even kind of looks like a Legally Blonde poster, right? Like, are the
Yeah.
posters kind of similar?
It does.
Yeah,
Probably
they
in
are.
the time, for those type of
That's
movie,
probably
they
true.
all kind of
Yeah.
had that. Yeah,
But
This is a great call. This is
it's
a
a
good
very
movie. This is
funny
a very
movie.
Good movie.
This might be my favorite thing Anna Faris has ever done. Like,
yeah,
this
it's
is
so
really-
good, and I don't know why it wasn't a bigger hit. At the time, I remember.
What year was it? 08?
2008.
I saw it in theaters.
I was reviewing movies at the time. I went up and looked up my old review. I gave it a good review, and I don't know why it didn't catch on because I think it deserved to. I thought.
When did The Hangover come out?
That was 2009. I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking like maybe it got swept. Like the bro rated R comedy started
so
happening.
this was out at the same time as Tropic Thunder.
Oh, okay.
So-
Well, that kind of makes sense then because that kind of blew up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But
Talking about movies you can't make nowadays.
yes,
A
yeah.
lot of stuff in there.
Talk about how he is able to avoid any sort of controversy for that movie is beyond
Well,
me.
because well,
It's
they
either
try,
way,
they
yeah.
try, but the movie is not being.
It's because they're making fun of that rather than actually
Right.
being that.
In context, they're it's very meta,
Sure.
and they're referencing the fact that it's idiotic.
it's Blazing
Yeah.
Saddles.
Yeah.
it's the same concept.
good luck.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
luck doing that in 2021.
I mean, you can't, but
no.
it's like the reason why he's not canceled is it's like, no, that was not. I mean, you wouldn't even be able to do it today, no matter what statement you're making. But back then, at
Yeah,
least,
they're lampooning the fact that someone would be dumb enough to do
What
that.
do you,
Yeah.
what do you
But-
mean, you people?
But anyway, so House Bunny is I think absolutely
great. That's a good
delightful, and my favorite scene is when she's showing them how she remembers names. And she she says the name like she would say their names like hi, I'm Natalie, and she would just look at them like dead faced and be like Natalie. It was just like, what are you doing?
You make a good point. Is how I mean she was on Mom, right? That ran.
I mean that like 7 or 8 seasons,
and I think it's still going, but she's off.
She left, and I think they did one more season
Right.
without her.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, but yeah, she is so funny.
she used to do all that goofy stuff. Where you're
Yeah.
right when you talk about like she doesn't care about the vanity of it. She
Yeah.
used to do those silly voices and everything. Where
Yeah.
it was
And she had a really good podcast.
I think it's still going on. I
Is
think
it?
yeah, no, I think it does very well for
I
her.
just
yeah.
wonder if the whole Chris Pratt thing. She was like, I'm gonna take a break and get out of here for a
She
little
still
bit.
was
and-
doing Mom after
Was
after
she?
that. Yeah, that lasted for a while.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I don't
Yeah.
think that she really let that. I think she just felt like the show had run its course.
Yeah.
But
But ABC or CBS was like, no, it's not.
yeah, it was CBS. So yeah,
CBS,
like
yeah.
they're like, well, we got out of we got 4 more seasons out of 2.5 Men, so we can.
Yeah.
We can,
Allison Janney, can you come back for
Yeah.
9 more seasons?
And she's like a character actress, right? She's just like, yeah, I'll
Sure.
take the gig.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Network money, 8 seasons. Yeah, okay,
Done.
Whatever. I'll do it until you stop paying me. I don't begrudge her that.
That's
But
great.
Anyway, House Bunny is, I think, a positively delightful movie that deserves way more respect than it
Yes.
gets. So, with that, I guess we got to wrap up. We don't have time.
Yeah.
to continue our streak of Blakeless deep fried tacos. So, no, what do you got for us?
All right, so I went with one I saw in theaters, and I think I was probably one of like 10 people who saw it in theater in 2002. There's a movie starring Christian Bale and Taye Diggs, of all people.
I can't believe you saw this in theaters.
Yeah, I saw it at
This was a
Ronnie's.
DVD. This was like
Yeah.
Boondock Saints. This was.
Oh, yeah, which I also saw in theaters
Right.
at Ronnie's.
Oh my God! See, Blake was ahead of the curve.
Yeah. So
He
yeah.
was a Hollywood video guy, so
This-
he knew where it was at.
This is this was called Equilibrium. It was
Oh.
by
Yeah.
Kurt Wimmer or Wimmer, which is funny. So that it's a mashup basically of like every dystopian movie and book you've ever read. I mean, there's a bit of Fahrenheit 451. There's some Brave New World in there, and then there's. It's like all these things, and then you add something called gun kata.
Gun kata, man. There was nothing
So
cooler
stupid.
in 2002 than gun kata.
Which, like, when I first saw that, I'm like, God, that's cool.
Right? That's what I'm saying.
And I watched it last night, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that's really not so
Yeah.
cool. Like,
What was the coolest aspect of this movie has now become the worst
Right.
aspect of this movie.
it's exciting to watch. Like,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong.
It
But, like,
is.
the worst part, and, like, some of it's better than others. So, like, when he's, like, So it is Kurt Wimmer or Vimmer, however you pronounce it. And when they're doing like the beginning where they're all the exposition of like how they got to this point, and they show a guy and they came up with gun kata, and he's the guy actually doing because he developed it himself.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And,
Which is this is like Steven Seagal fighting styles, but if it were cool, right? Because it's like a total dance art form to where it makes no practical sense.
Oh,
but you're
yeah.
like that's what they're trying to do.
They're saying use of geometry and stuff like that allows you to have maximum efficiency and stay out of the way of bullets, basically.
Or you step
but literally,
back and
they like stand in the center of a room and just like shoot, and I'm like who the hell is shooting at this guy? Right? Because I mean, he's literally in the center of all of them. One of them just has to pop him once.
But that's the thing. It's cool. It's not practical, but it looks so cool. And again, in the early 2000s, you were
I forgot that Tay Diggs was in this movie.
So it follows this character John, who is what's called a cleric, and there's lots of weird.
He was definitely trying to world build.
Oh yeah, there's it's the tetragrammaton or whatever is one of the words they use, which.
I feel like this is kind of like THX 1138 too, though.
Yeah, there is some of that. In there too,
yeah.
Yes. But so this is a world where there's a third world war, and they've decided that to avoid humanity won't survive a fourth. So there's this authoritarian government who super fascist, and they make everybody take these emotion suppressing drugs. Prosium, I think is what it's called, which they actually had a different name for it at one, and then it actually turned out there was already a drug named that, and so they had to change it. And it's this nation of Liberia, and it's all filmed in Berlin.
I was gonna say it's kind of got like a underworld look
so it's
to
got
it.
they use a lot of Nazi imagery, and they use a lot of buildings and stuff, but kind of future them up a bit. But so Sean Bean is the cleric partner of Christian Bale, and it turns out he's been feeling he's what they call a sense offender, and he gets caught stealing a book of poems from the resistance or whatever.
I mean, this is THX 1138, right?
There's no subtlety in this movie, by the way.
Yeah.
None at all. The very first thing they find at the first raid they do is the Mona Lisa. It's because that's just, that's
somebody has that just laying around.
He's supposed to be super intuitive, that's why he's such a good clerk and or cleric or whatever. But he goes to this room and he's like, "That's it. It's the only room with a rug." And they're like, "Oh, they got you, buddy." So they pull it up and it's the Mona Lisa, and then they burn it. And but so he kills his partner after he finds out he's a sense offender, but then that kind of propels him into his own journey to stop taking his Prosium, and he starts feeling. But the thing that
is
gets
there a puppy in this movie?
Yes.
Okay.
They kill dogs.
Yes.
At one point, and
because they make people feel joy.
A puppy comes up to him and he picks it up, and it's this cute little Bernese Mountain Dog puppy. And he oh no, we gotta save this one for make sure none of them have disease or whatever. He's supposed to be this very smart guy, but he's really dumb, really dumb. He breaks down crying at one point, and I'm like, everybody sees this, they're gonna report you as a sense offender, man. Just come on,
get it together.
He just starts wearing his emotions on his sleeve. But there's a whole subplot with Emily Watson where she's captured and he's relating with her, and apparently she's been with Sean Bean. But Sean Bean dies in the early part of the movie.
Shocking.
Obviously.
Was she a puppy?
No, unfortunately not.
But so Tay Diggs is trying to hunt him down.
He becomes his new partner, and he's also intuitive, and he knows what people are feeling before they start to feel, which it always seemed a little weird to me that someone is supposed to be like a empath, but there's no emotion. Can you really have empaths with no emotion? But whatever. There's a lot of really great stuff in the movie, but it's not subtle at all. You can see the makings and trappings of a good movie. But what it really all comes down to is the fact that there's some cool action. Although the gun kata thing, the very first one that he does, they black out this room and the screen stays black for like 15 seconds, and they're all like, "Where'd he go? Did we get him? Is he dead? Is he dead?" And all of a sudden, you just see him like in different formations, like.
But it's all done in
gun flare.
Yeah, like it's all done in
it's
flares,
all
right?
kind of strobe effect.
Yeah.
But they have these weird like like sound effects, and like his arms are blurry, like really bad CG. Oh, it's so bad. Just like find that clip and watch it, and like because when I was 18, I was like, that's really cool, and now that looks so bad.
I'm telling you, like I saw this on DVD when it came out, so probably right around after theaters when it came out.
So what you said it was 2002?
Yeah, this is right before they filmed it in 2000, but it didn't come out until 2002.
And this movie was so cool. I mean, you were telling everyone, like Boondock Saints, at the time, you were
he's
just
still
like
in American Psycho shape, and
when is Batman?
2005.
Okay.
Yeah, this is right on his climb
I feel like
up.
I watched this right
is
before.
one of the things I think that kind of got
him into Batman, right? That's what I thought. It
was an action role that kind of like was almost an audition for him.
That's right,
for Batman.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's in tip top shape. I mean, the actors are all good. They play it, very straight, and I mean, even Taye Diggs isn't bad. You want to hate him, and that's the whole role. Like that. I mean,
he's the bad guy.
Yeah,
I feel like I would still find this enjoyable.
By the way, the final fight between him and Taye Diggs, it's a sword fight. They have like a kendo stick fight earlier.
Oh, it's called sword kata.
Yeah,
invented it. They took the swords off the guns and just.
But he has. It lasts like 3 seconds. He literally just like cuts the dude's face off.
Oh yeah, he cuts his face off.
I want to take
was,
his face
and
off.
apparently Taye Diggs was not available to film the final scene, so they had to just improvise. And it was supposed to be like a big battle between them originally. And instead, they're just like, well, we'll just have him cut his face
It's Indiana Jones.
The Indiana Jones.
That's
did.
that's great.
Yeah.
Which I remember again how badass that was because you were just like, oh crap, you expected the showdown, cut his face off.
Yeah, you find out at the end there's a big shadowy. It's a conspiracy where there's this overarching figure called Father, who's the one who outlaws everything and sets all the rules, and he's played by the I can't remember his name. He played Alfred in Pennyworth in some of the DC properties in the early 2010s. But it turns out he's not the actual man behind the curtain. That it's this Angus McFadden's character is the actual bad guy.
He was just a puppet.
Yeah, and so because the real father died years ago, but they just
perpetuated the myth.
It's the dad pirate Roberts.
There you go.
And Angus McFadden and Christian Bale have a very intense gun kata battle at the very end that's super choreographed and does not hold up as well as I remember. Angus McFadden especially looks a little out of his league. He doesn't seem to be in the same type of
I sense
shape
a running
as-
theme
as
between all
Christian
of
Bale.
our action movies is that maybe they aren't the best idea to put these actors into action sequences.
Yeah, Christian Bale does great with the action
Sure,
sequences.
sure.
And like the final action sequence is pretty great. I mean, he comes in and there's all these, leather clad like shadowy police figures that he just I think I was reading like
Does everybody wear helmets? Is there a lot of helmets in this movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Remember the dress whites that he wears?
Yeah,
with the
that's,
I mean,
that's the very,
it's cool, man. It was cool. I'm saying I haven't watched in a long time, but in the 2000s,
he kills 118 different people in the movie, and at one point was like the third highest death count of any character character in film.
I mean, like I was in high school for this movie. You know what I mean? Like that age, I found this was the action movie. It was like, this is badass.
It's I think one of the reasons it hit for me when I was 18 and doesn't really hit as much for me now is it's before you really experience. If you haven't experienced all, if you haven't read Fahrenheit 451 or Brave New World and stuff like that, those ideas are new to you, and and they seem a lot more profound. And
I saw it before THX 1138.
Yeah.
I mean, that plot is so much THX 1138,
100%.
suppressing their feelings and one
Oh,
stops, and that's the plot.
And it's got, there's a lot of Logan's
Oh,
run in
absolutely!
this
Like literally,
well.
it takes piecemeal of like every dystopian like trope that you can think
we were the people that were like that saw John Carter, which I also love, and said, "Man, that feels a lot like Star Wars." Where it's like,
well, and it's the same thing
Right.
I'd say about the Matrix, right? That I'm just like, this is just freshman level philosophy.
Oh, sure.
That they set an action movie against, and if you don't already know a lot of these theories,
seem
they're going to
super
blow your
profound.
mind.
Yeah.
And but if you're over a certain
Right.
age, you're just like, oh yeah, I know what you're doing.
So like it's definitely if you approached it in a time of your life where it'll hit harder than, and it's certainly not terrible. There are terrible moments, but there are like actually like it has a really good sense of style. Like it
the big
looks
long
cool.
trench coats
and like
Hey man, there was a good like period of time where the gun kata thing like had a good shelf.
Well, so
like this came out, and there was like about 5 years where this was still good.
he reused it again in Ultraviolet.
Oh, this guy did Ultraviolet.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bad
and
movie.
then that's
It's a
well,
terrible
and that
movie.
sort of signifies the end of the show. Would be
Is
Ultraviolet.
that
He
Charlize
started
Whereas, like,
it
okay,
and
no, this-
killed it.
Which is that Angelina
doesn't
Jolie
work anymore.
or Charlize Theron?
Yeah.
No, Charlize.
Okay, so she had 2 bites. Of that
Angelina's
Yeah,
salt.
no. it-
apple. Oh yeah, that's
yeah,
right.
it
But she
was-
also did
it-
Aeon Flux, right?
Oh, Aeon Flux is
That's Charlize.
That's Charlize
That's
as
yours,
well.
so-
Yeah. Okay.
She was in
She had that
Wanted.
action run.
Thinking
where
of Wanted.
No, I was thinking of Aeon Flux is what I was. But she
Oh.
and then she came back and did the female led action movie. And
I
then
was
she
thinking
came back and
Angelina
did-
Jolie. If you were trying to put, she was in that Wanted
Oh,
movie.
what? Yeah.
That's
See, that's
really
another
bad
one
one,
where it's
too.
like
Comic's
you know
good,
they're playing with sort of the physics of
Curving the
curving
bullet.
bullets
Oh,
and stuff
shut
like that,
up.
which isn't
Golly.
quite gun kata.
It's bullet kata.
The problem with the gun kata is that
It's
it
gun.
like in the. I mean, I saw this on video. I didn't see it at the movies, and I remember thinking, "That's pretty good." And then I watched it. A few years later, I was like, "That movie's great." And then I watched it again, and I was like, "Oh, this is so."
Which really is
But
deep fried tacos in
it
a
had that
nutshell.
window.
Well, I
Yeah.
remember in
Oh,
the
yeah.
first episode or whatever, like Dan said something about Joe's movie and said, "Oh, it's so dumb." And then in this episode, Joe just said, "Oh, that movie's so dumb." Like it's
We've
funny
come
how
full circle.
you all, but
Yeah.
it's like that's what the thing is with the deep fried
Yeah.
taco. They are dumb movies,
But you still
and you
love 'em.
recognize it and
Yeah.
you love them,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is all boils down to one person's trash is another person's
Yes.
treasure.
So just like with dating. So I guess that's it for this one. Let's go around the table and everyone can say where to find them.
Well, this is Dan. You can find me on Twitter. I'm on there once in a while, DanGraney67.
I'm Blake. You can find me on Twitter at EpicFail, FEHL.
This is Joe. You can follow me on the Twitter at Joey Butts, BUTTS21.
And this is Kevin. You can follow me on Twitter at Kevin R. Brackett.
And this is Tom. You can find me on Twitter at Roger Kubert or on Facebook at Facebook.com/Tom O'Keefe. Find the show online, Facebook.com/Real Spoilers. While you're there, like the page, join the group, and of course, don't forget our Patreon.
No one has Gab or Gitter or any of those?
No.
No.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, that's it for this one. I have no idea what comes out next week, so we'll figure it out then. And until then, you've been warned.
Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, 'cause we already